There's quite a few people like to view this afterwards. So there's a few people in Nigeria who, just because of time zones, I always try to record it. A couple of students. So my name's Godfrey Nolan. Welcome to the July meetup for drone programming. This time we're going to look at swarms. It's the agenda. Oh yeah, hold on a second. Let me do this. Let me just present. Okay, everybody see that? Okay. If at any stage, and just from past experience, I've done this before where I've admitted somebody and then I stopped presenting for some reason, can you just shout and let me know that you can't see it anymore? So basically what I'm going to talk about is just latest news. That really isn't much. This month that's gone on, it's the summer. The M350 came out, but that's been out for a while. We're up to over 325 members. A lot of people joined for the swarm. So it's been, certainly the amount of people who signed up was by far our largest group. So we're over a year now, our drone meetup. Anybody who ever wants to speak, just let me know. And then we're going to talk about some of the commercial options that are out there and how much they are. Basically, unless you're very wealthy, there's a huge barrier to entry to do any of the swarm stuff if you're going to go with any of the commercial options. I did check out a few of the companies and I'm going to list them, and then there's a video and it shows you basically how the big boys do it. But there's no reason why you can't start on this your own, but especially because we're doing it with 3 or 4 drones. But you can simulate it with with 20 or so, and then that's not too bad. Okay, so what's the latest news? Okay, so the group's up to 325 members. I think we've got a few more over the last couple of hours. And then next month's meeting is going to be on drone security top 10 risks. So we're going to look to see what you can do and what you can't do with to protect your drone, your mobile app connected to the drone, whether you're writing to AWS and all that sort of stuff, to make sure that you're not sharing data. We do a lot of mobile apps for different people, and we have a lot of experience in how to make sure that you can make this stuff rock solid. Most of the stuff is on Android now anyway, so Android has some great security features that you can enable with the latest jetpacks. We'll talk about that next month. I was hoping to get Dark Wolf to talk, but so far they haven't responded. So the professional drones show, so it's July 4th. We just saw a couple of them yesterday. Somebody actually hit me up today and said, I live in just outside Detroit, in a place called Huntington Woods, and they had their fireworks show last night, and it's right beside a zoo. So next year they want to do it with a drone show, because you can imagine what the animals are like in the zoo when all those fireworks are going off. And they've been doing it for 50 years, so it's time. So this evening's meetup is not really about creating the professional swarm like this Dragon for the I think this was for the Chinese New Year. I'll talk about how you can go down that route if you want to, assuming that you have the money. It's good to know anyway what's out there. But we're going to look at a much smaller number of drones. So in the 10s rather than the 100s, which is basically what we have here. There was a good article in the New York Times yesterday about the drone shows and how they're starting to appear everywhere. And they put the minimum number of drones that you'd need for a drone show at 75, I believe, which seems about right. So our goal this evening is to set up a swarm that will work. This is the Reese logo with a more modest 20 drones. So how do we do it? How do we set it up with 20 drones? And I did this using Mission Planner, pretty straightforward. So there's no reasons why you can't do this. But if we want to go down the commercial route, it's basically you're talking hundreds of thousands to get started. Okay. A couple more people joining. Okay, bear with me. So let's talk about some of the commercial companies. So we have Skyworks, we have Celestial, Sky Elements, Pixis, Sky Magic, FreeFly. FreeFly is a local one to Michigan here. Skyworks Somebody who used to work with us at Reese is now working there in sales, and I know that they use the Vantage software, I believe, and then they've recently done a huge show at Fenway Park, and then Free Flyer. They're doing lots of shows around here. But it's basically what you're doing is you're paying for them to come set up the show and then organize everything yourselves. So not necessarily what I want to do. So if we want to start this and use some of the commercial software that's out there, so there is DSS from SPH. So SPH is the UGCS guys out in Latvia. So they have drone show software. I think that's what the DSS stands for. And we have Verge Aero, there's Nova, and D'Amato, and Verge Aero, that's the one that Skyworks is using. So assuming that you have the hardware, which is a huge assumption, so 75 drones is, you're basically talking, at least $1,000 a drone, if not more. So that's 75K to 100K. And then if you've flown drones, you know that there's a significant failure rate. So, it could be anywhere up to 5%. And the logistics to make sure that everything is charged is just frightening to me to how that would work together. But also the cost for which I'll talk about in a second. So this is the good people SPH sent me this. I'm going to mute it. We don't need to hear the thing. Fast forward it a bit so you can get started. So actually the guy does say, I'll be quiet. So the way this is working is that there's a separate piece of software that you basically set up the whatever the animation is, and then within that you upload the animation to this. You've got 100 drones. You connect the 100 drones, and it figures out how to do the animation for you. So if we go on a bit further, basically it shows you how it's done. So this is. And they're saying that you really should have two computers, one that's running the drone show software, and then the other one that's running the controlling the drone. So this is the animation that we have. We just have a drone showing the drones. And here's all the warning stuff you get. But this is how, if you were, like I said, the local people here, Huntington Mud, said that they wanted to run a show, you're going to use something like this. Okay, so now for the bad news. So this software without the drones is 24,000 to 42,000 euros. So if you go to the store on DSS, and that's depending on the number of drones. So if you've 25 drones, it's 24K. If you have 200 drones, it's 42K. So that's a significant amount of cash. Plus, also each of the drones themselves would be, 1,000 or 1,500. So I don't have that money. It's basically they're saying that you need to be able to have 7 drones, 7 shows in order to be able to break even. So, but there are companies going into this. I am hearing that it's starting to be a bit like the aerial photography stuff that happened in the past, where it's starting to be a race to the bottom to see who can do it the cheapest. But it's not really something that I don't have 150K for a complete system, or even 24K to just start playing with the software. And also I couldn't find any demo software, so there's nothing out there. So then we got to find something else. So what do? We're back to this. So we're level setting that we're, at this level where we're trying to create, my little Reese logo. It's 25 years of Reese. We wanted to figure out a way to do this. We thought this would be kind of cute. And so we started looking at Mission Planner to see if we could do it through Mission Planner. And you can. It's not to say that I've 25 drones. We have 3 or 4 of them. I'll show you right at the end in a very uninspiring and drone swarm. But basically, if you have the kit, the technology is there that you can basically create what you want to create. It's up to you. The software that's out there makes it a hell of a lot easier, and certainly makes it much more quicker and probably safer than if you're trying to do it yourself. But there's no reason why we can't do this, and we're basically doing the poor man's swarming to get my little logo. So it's nowhere near as graceful, but it's a lot cheaper than what we've seen so far. I don't really, I'm not hearing that anything is much cheaper than what we have than the DSS. If anybody knows otherwise, I'd be, more than happy to hear. So we have 3 or 4 drones. We're running RG Pilot because it's Mission Planner. We're not running PX4. I am looking at getting it to run PX4. We're connecting directly to each of the, like we were using the Holybro, telemetry. So we're using that, and each of them we're connecting to directly. There are some options that basically you only need 1 ground station. I'll talk about that a little bit later, but this really is the poor man's way to get this running. But if you got a couple of drones, you can start to play around with it and maybe get a couple more. Okay, so what I want to do. So what I'm going to talk about is there's 2 parts of this. So the first one is the swarm simulation. So how do we set this up just to get it to work within RG Pilot, or sorry, within Mission Planner, so that we've got our little Reese logo, and how do we set that up, and how do we put that all together? What I've done for the show is, I don't know if many people have used Mission Planner here before, but there's a lot of toggles, and there's a lot of switches, and there's a lot of things. So what I did was I'm going to make sure that I give you guys all of the, I'm going to record this so you can look at it again if you want to. And then the instructions will be speaker notes. So I'm going to give out the slides as well. We'll share the slides. So if you want to start playing with this, you should have everything that you'll need in order to set it up. We had a couple of interns who did a great job doing it over the last few months. So the swarm simulation is the first part. So we're going to, how do we set up the swarm simulation? How do we run it? When we're flying it, what does it look like? And then how do you, maybe after the fact, positioning the drones in the swarm? You can position them to start. You can also position them later to get, whatever creative thing that you want to do. I'm only doing it in 2D. So, you could, of course, do it in 3D too as well. But at the moment, all I'm doing it is in 2D. Then we're going to fly the drones. So how do we set up a follow the leader system? So that we have, in this case, this is a really super simple swarm where we just have, there's 3 drones flying or 4 drones flying. And we have one who's designated as the leader, and then essentially what the other drones are just doing is following the leader. So we set up, how do we set up the telemetry radios? How do we set up the swarming, which is on the Mission Planner, which is again pretty similar to what we have before? And how do we get it to follow the leader? So we have to fly the drone, and then what's the steps that we have to take after the first drone flies to make sure that the other drones fly too as well. And then the third example is just basically how do you set up an autonomous swarm where, a bit like if you were going to have a, just an automated flight over, a field taking pictures and, creating a stitched image or whatever you're doing. We're going to do the same with an autonomous swarm. So how we'll do that? How do we set up the, very similar again, swarming steps on Mission Planner, and then flying the swarm in auto mode. And then we have a couple of tips and tricks for things that you might want to look at. But the real meat of what we're going to do is really just talking about the swarm simulation, which is the first part. Okay, so like I said, what I'm going to do is walk you through how to do this, so that if you've got Mission Planner, it's missionplanner.com, just download it yourself. And we'll walk through what we need to do. So we open the Mission Planner software. So in the top menu, we click on Simulation. We're going to select the Copter Swarm multi-link. How many do we want? Like in this case, all I'm doing is I'm just picking 3, but you can pick as many as you like. I will say that if you do more than 20, you want to make sure that you have a super fast computer, because you need certainly an i7 or an i9, hopefully, or a good Apple M2 chip to get this working. Although it's Mission Planner. Mission Planner I was definitely using on Windows. I'm not 100% sure if it's on other platforms. So once the drones are visible, basically what we want to do is we want to set some of the. So here's our 3 drones here. So we have them now. And then we're just going to zoom in. So they're just all sitting together. We want to do a bit of a configuration on them first. One of the things that we found is that it's good to set the WP nav speed to 200. And the reason you want to do that is because it's slow enough that the drone doesn't fly so fast that it destroys the pattern. So whatever pattern you're trying to make, it's good to keep it about the speed about 200. If you leave it as 1,000, which is the default, then you're going to find that it's going to be flying too fast. And you got to switch between the different drones, click on the drones. And then make sure that they're writing what they're supposed to be writing. So a lot of the time, what you want to do is you want to make sure that the parameters are the correct, are this 200 for each of the different things. You might want to look at other things as well if you want to change some of the other parameters, but that was the most basic thing that we need to do. Okay, next. So we set up the swarm simulation. Now what we want to do is we want to run the simulation software. I need to fast forward this a bit. I was having a bit of a problem with this earlier on. Wasn't taking my times. Okay. Okay, so you'll see here that when you hit Control F, which opens the advanced menu, all of the things are here. Mission Planner is just amazing, the amount of things it have. But over here we have Swarm. So it's now, if you click on that, basically what it's going to tell you, it's in beta. So we are in beta, but hey, I'll use everything rather than having to pay, 40 grand for some software. So off we go. So this is the Swarm menu. So now what we have here is we have a grid with buttons on the top, and we have all the drones in the middle. They're all kind of on top of each other, so you got to make sure that you separate them out. The one that's blue, you're going to make sure that they are the one that is set to the leader. Okay, so once the leader is assigned, its location can be changed. And we keep the Swarm tab open to avoid restarting the process. Now what we're doing here is we're putting our waypoints. So this is just something, all we're doing is just a really simple waypoint. We're going to write that out to the drones. I don't want to go to data yet. Hold on, wait a second there. Just make sure I covered everything. Okay. So let's go back this again because I talked a lot there. We opened the advanced menu, hit Swarm. So in the Swarm menu, there is a grid with buttons, and we have all the drones that are in the middle of the grid. They're all on top of each other, so you basically got to separate them out. We've got 3 here, but you can imagine if you get in there, that you want to make sure that you're separating them all out so you can see them in a pattern. And then you want to set the leader. So in this case, what we're going to do is we're just going to have a follow the leader. I'm going to switch back to the Mission Planner window. And then we're going to click on the Plan tab. And once you're in the Plan tab, then basically what we can do is start setting up our waypoints, which is what we were doing there, so that we can get it to start. Okay, so once we've got our waypoints done, now what we want to do is we want to have our flying swarm. So yet again, I have to push this out here. Hold on. Okay, so how do we get it to actually fly? So a couple of things we need to do. So once the mission has been created for the leader, ensure that you're on the mission planner screen, which is we're here. So we're going to be on the data tab. So under the flight display screen, we got to locate the tab on the screen, click the action tab. Get rid of this. I don't see that. So this is our action tab, which is this one here. And then we get all sorts of buttons in here, and we want to click on arm, disarm to arm the drone. Arm, disarm here. And you want to pretty quickly go over to the other side of the screen and click takeoff. You've got about 3 or 4 seconds before the drone disarms itself. So basically it's showing that it's armed here, but if you don't do takeoff, it's going to disarm pretty quick. So on the flight display screen, we observe the drone starting to move. Then let's go back. Let's just continue. Okay. Okay, I'm going to return to the mission planner window and click auto in the action tab to start the mission on the leader drone. And then you can see basically that the other drones are armed. So yeah, actually, hold on a second, I missed a step. So we go back to the swarm window, which is what we have here. We click on the arm Excel leader, which is up here, which is to arm the followers. And if everything's working correctly, the armed icon on the right-hand side will turn to true. Then after arming the following drones, we click on takeoff, wait a couple more seconds, and then everything should start flying. And you can see now that they're all flying together. And it goes to follow the waypoint pattern that we've done. Again, I'd say it's a hell of a lot easier to upload the animation. It does it for you, but we are technically doing a swarm, even if it's only 3. Okay, speed it up a bit. You get the general idea. Okay. Also, if you have the swarm window up, you can change the formation of the drones while they're in air. So you can basically choose whichever drone you want and then start moving them around. And it's possible that's by doing this, basically, that was how we got the Reese logo to work together. So, and then you can also group them together. So it's to make sure that you're getting the whatever pattern that you're trying to do. Okay, what's next? I'll talk a little bit about troubleshooting. Okay, so in the simulator, it's not a big deal. Basically, we're not flying the drones. We're using fake drones within Mission Planner. If you are flying the drones, be very careful because those buttons are really close together. And given how close the disconnect button is to the drone selector, it's important that when you're navigating the controls that you don't, by mistake, press the disconnection. And if you do, you're going to have to restart the entire process. There's a lot of this. There's a lot of playing around with this to make sure that it works. Trial and error over and over again. But we certainly did get the Reese thing working. It was kind of cranking on the computer that we were working with and the Reese logo. But 20 drones is certainly within your average laptop. And then because this is still beta, so occasionally due to some glitches, it may not function as intended. But if you do follow the steps and get used to following the steps, pretty quickly you'll get up and running and be able to design your own patterns. And then if you do encounter any expected behavior or performance issues, you just restart the swarm window and it'll get you going again. What else? So there are multiple ways to connect the drones to Mission Planner. In our case, we're using the Holybro telemetry radio. So each of the drones that we're flying has this. We're pairing the radio. So when connecting more than one drone, make sure that the net ID is different for each pair of radios. This can be changed if you go to Setup, Optional and Hardware, and then choose the SIC radio. And so once connected to each other, take one radio from each drone and connect them to the Mission Planner. That works pretty well. Okay, so that was We're now getting into the stage where we've connected the drones, we've got our mission working. Admittedly, it's only within the mission planner. It's not actually real drones. So what do we have to do to get this to work for when we fly the drones? Okay, so it's not actually that different from what we've done so far. It's basically a lot of the same steps. We connect all the drones to mission planner by right-clicking on the menu bar and selecting connection options. So we've got the videos here to show you what it's done. Once all the drones are connected to mission planner, they should show up in the map. So this is our map here, our swarm map. And then clicking on the down menu will allow you to choose which connected drone to view. And then if you click on Control F again, that's going to pull up the advanced tool menu. Click on swarm, and then a red circle will appear for each drone that's connected. And then you select a drone to be the leader by clicking on the drop-down menu in the middle of the menu bar over here. And the selected drone will turn blue to indicate the leader. So, okay, so now what we're doing is we're just going to have it here, as you can just see. Get this out of the way. There's the swarm. Click on swarm. And then we have our 3 drones. So when we have our 3 drones, they'll be flying. This is just, this is our office. This is above our office. Okay. So in order to fly the swarm manually with a remote controller, go through the previous steps. Arm the follower drones like we did within the simulation by clicking Arm, Exclude Leader. Arm the leader drone via a remote controller and take off from the ground. So you fly the leader drone to the desired altitude and set in the position hold in the remote controller. Click Take Off on the swarm menu and wait for the follower drones to hold their position in the air. So basically they'll just go up in the air and get ready to go. And then if you click Start, then it's going to follow the pattern that you've defined for the leader drone. And then what else can we do? We can also do autonomous swarming, which in this case, we're basically going to have pretty similar to what we had before, but we're just going to define a pattern that we're going to follow. So it's not going to be the follow the leader. It's what we have here. So collect all the drones to mission planner by clicking again on the connection options. You can see there's a lot of repetition here. Control F onto the advanced tools to get the swarm, the advanced menus to come up. Click on swarm. Again, you get the 3 circles in this case, which is going to be the drones. So you have to separate them out. And then a red circle will appear for each drone that's connected. Select a drone to be the leader by clicking on the drop-down menu in the middle of the menu bar and get that to select leader again. Okay, so how do we fly that? So select the leader drone from the drop-down menu, create a flight path on the map by left-clicking to plot waypoints. That's what we did earlier on when we were setting up all the different waypoints. It's recommended to enable the geofence under the config tab and create a fence around your flight path to reduce the risk of the drones flying out of range. We had lots of examples where the drones, especially when we were starting to do this, where they would just fly off for no reason. So make sure that you put a geofence in there. It's also, if you've got anybody who's watching it, you want to make sure that you have, you're taking their safety into account. So if you've got a geofence, just make sure it stays within whatever field that you're working in. Click right to save the path to the drone. A lot of the times what we'll do is when we have to rewrite it, we delete them all and then we click read just to make sure that they've actually been saved. So when the leader drone is selected, navigate to the data path, data tab, and click arm disarm again. Take off with the leader drone by right-clicking the map and selecting take off. And then the swarm menu, click arm, excluding leader. So again, and then in the data tab, set the leader drone to auto mode. And so in this case, basically it's going to take off its own. So then the swarm will follow the path until they reach the last waypoint. And we did actually take a video of this, which I got to tell you is not as inspiring as seeing the dragon at the start. So in this case, what we have, this was done pretty early. So we have there are 3 drones here. One is flying at a slightly lower altitude, but they're all following the leader drone, which is the one at the top here. A lot of our issues were basically just down to the number of drones that we had. We had a few drones that we used from previous hover games, competitions, so we were just using those. So the drones that we have, they're 3 Orange Q Pixhawks. They're running RG Pilot. They don't really have anything special in them. They have GPS. They don't have RTK. If you're going to be doing this with a, you know, trying to make a better pattern, you're definitely going to want to have some RTK on there to make sure that it's, you know, centimeter accuracy as opposed to this. The last thing you want with 100 drones is for them all to start crashing, obviously. Okay. This is the missionplanner.com. If you want to go download that. Then if you want to try this, what I would strongly suggest is, you know, it took us quite a bit to figure out how to get this to work. So we've written the steps down. I'm going to be putting out the speaker slides after we're done with this so that you guys can play with it. You don't need to buy any drones to start playing with swarms. Next steps would be if we can get some more drones. I'd like to do it with the 20 drones, just to actually get it to fly it to see if we can do the Reese logo. You'll notice that most of the stuff that we're doing is 2D. So it will let you do 3D. We just haven't done that yet. So that would be next steps too as well. And hopefully get a better video. We were trying to get something at nighttime, but didn't manage to get it done in time. And again, my apologies for delaying this. I was trying to get this done last month, but we didn't get enough time to be able to do it. Okay. You guys got any questions? Anybody wanting to try this next? And also an open invitation to anybody who wants to talk at the next meetup about whatever drone programming topic you want. I'd be very happy. We've done quite a few things over the months. If you want to go check back, we've done lots of stuff in QGC, lots of stuff. We just did one on the GGI V5 SDK last month, which I think went quite well. Any questions?
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
And you may have said this, but a lot went by there just then. How did you set the distance between the drones? Was that a setting in Q ground control, or was that given by the takeoff position, or?
It's in the swarm mission screen. So basically, in that grid that you have there, you can set whatever pattern you want. So within that grid, which is, yeah, basically it was the where we set the leader in, where we had the one drone in the middle that was blue and the other two were red. Remember that was? It's just a grid, a black grid. So within that swarm mission screen here, I can just go back a bit further and show you.
So if they're taking off from different spots, did you have to mission plan them so they would get into alignment and then go? Or did you have them all or were they all taking off from the same spot?
Here, I will show you now. Let me just present this.
I apologize that these questions are kind of stupid.
No, honestly, I went through an awful lot here pretty quickly, so I'm more than happy to go over stuff again, because that's actually a pretty important point. So what we have here is and I wanted to show everybody else too as well, in case. So all of the stuff that I was talking about is in here. So if you want to follow this yourself, you want to set up a swarm simulation, you know, I've broken out the steps that you need to take. Mm-hmm. However, Brian, to answer your specific question, this is the swarm mission screen, okay? And within that, we have 3 drones, and that is the one which is the takeoff drone. So we know what that, we know where that is, whether it's virtual on our swarm simulation or whether it's actual because we defined it the leader when we fly it manually or if we fly it auto. And then this is where you can barely see the other 2 red drones on either side of this.
Uh-huh.
That is the distance. You define what the distance is. So basically you drag and drop it to whatever you want. So if you want it really close, you drag it closer. If you want to do it over this way, you want to drag it further away. You can make it in a circle. You can make it in a square. It's entirely up to you. But it's up to you to define how far away they are and in what pattern they are.
And then they keep that that configuration.
Yeah, because they follow the leader. So if you have it where it's it's in a, it's just a straight line here. But if you have it where it's in a square rectangle, and then you tell the leader to follow the waypoints, which is that yellow square that I drew. So you tell it to go in whatever direction it wants to go in. The other drones will follow it in that pattern.
Great. Yeah, that clarifies it. Thank you.
No worries. Anybody else? Okay, short and sweet. Thanks, guys. Hopefully see some of you guys next month. We're going to talk about security. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.